Guys, welcome back to the channel. As always, good to see you. Now, just like it says on the board behind me, we will be talking about in today's video how to stop foreclosure, because this is a common scenario that comes up quite a bit if you're a real estate investor. Now, before we dig in, as you know, I am not an attorney and nothing you hear on this channel is ever legal advice. I'm just a successful real estate investor on YouTube, sharing with you what I do and giving you my opinions on things to help you with your business. Now, I want to give you an overall case study of something that we dealt with directly in my business over the past 2 weeks and what we did and how we stopped it and how this is beneficial for everyone. But I also want to give you an overall concept and strategy to use if you come across a house in foreclosure that you want to buy, because you will. Now, most of you market to the foreclosure list, but even if you don't directly go after this list, indirectly, you will buy houses that are going into foreclosure. You could be marketing to a code violation list or to a probate list, or any other type of list, and you show up to that house, you get all the way to the end, you negotiate a deal, you give them 100 grand, they accept 100 grand, and then they tell you, we're going into foreclosure literally next week or in a couple weeks from now. So what do, right? So you're hoping that you can get the house closed in time. Or you may be a rehabber and know you can get it closed in time and have the money to do so, but you contract that property, you run it down to the title company, you receipt it, and 2 days later, when they're trying to figure out what's going on, can they insure this title, what happens? They contact you back, your heart stops, and they tell you, Houston, we have a problem. We don't know if we can get this house closed in time. Yet a week from now, that house is going to foreclosure, yet they've got a major title issue. There could be judgments on the property, there may not have been a will or no probate going on, and they don't know if they can figure it out in time. Now you have a real risk, not just the money you're gonna make on the house, but you have a real family, the human element of real individuals living in this world, in your community, that could have $100,000 in equity, which could be every single dollar they have to their name, at risk, right? Because if you don't close, that family goes through foreclosure, so they have that on their record, hurting their credit, and they lose every dollar they saved up for their entire life, which is the equity in that house. So what are you gonna do here? Now, I'm gonna show you what's one of the most common ways to stop a foreclosure. You're gonna need to get that family to file Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Now, I promise you this, they're not gonna like that, but you know what they're gonna like even less? Having to go through foreclosure and losing everything. Now, you need to explain to them that this is a voluntary bankruptcy. Now, there's two different types of bankruptcy that are commonly talked about, Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 13 is a voluntary bankruptcy. You can file this, start the bankruptcy process, pull the house out of the bankruptcy, get the house closed, and they can elect to not go through with the bankruptcy. So they never have to have a Chapter 13 bankruptcy on their record. Problem is, their credit's already shot because they're in foreclosure, right? So they're probably not too concerned with this. They're probably way more concerned with that $100,000 in equity that they're gonna get. So this is a quick and easy way to stop a foreclosure. Now let me give you a way to not have to go through this by working with that foreclosure attorney, because most of the time, unless they're an incredibly savvy individual, they're gonna have a foreclosure attorney representing them. So just here in the past 2 weeks, we've had this situation come up, right? So I was buying a house from a family, and what happened was they originally had bought that house on an owner finance wrap from an individual. And they thought it was all done correctly, right? And so when we go to drop the property off at the title company, my title company says, guess what? We've got a problem, right? That's not what we wanna hear. And we're literally a week or so away from going through foreclosure. So what do? So I try to find out as much information as I can. But the first thing I do, guys, is I start a paper trail. I start a paper trail with the title company, with the previous lien holder, with my sellers, and with that attorney that represents that lien holder, because it's important to start protecting your position going forward, because you don't want to have he say, she say later, especially if for some reason you can't get this house closed and these people lose all their money and they're pointing the finger at you, right? So what we want to do is acknowledge the problem and reach out directly to that attorney. So what happened was I contacted this attorney, and he's telling me about all the back fees they had. They had back taxes that they paid for that potential borrower that they was buying that property from them. They also had back payments, and they had attorney fees involved. It totaled over $10,000. Now, that attorney said if we reinstate all that money, they'll stop the foreclosure. But here's the problem. My title company is telling me they don't even know if they could legally sell the house, because what happened was the son of the man who owned the property signed this property direct to these buyers who I'm buying the property from. Now, this can get a little confusing. So there's an individual who was an older gentleman. He owned the property. He passed away. The son, with no probate, no will, sold that house on owner financing to the individuals that I'm working with, right? So technically, he wasn't allowed to do this, or we didn't know he was allowed to do this at the time. And so these individuals, if they foreclose on this house, are going to take almost $100,000 in equity as compared to simply just getting the note paid off, which was not that much, right? So what do you think they would do on a selfish level? Would you rather have an extra 100 grand or almost an extra 100 grand, or just your note paid off without all that extra interest you were going to earn over the years? So even though people are not always coming from a bad position, still that greed bug and that selfish bug kind of kicks in. So they were not being as responsive as I wanted, and you need to get that payoff information. You need to get all the information available for that title company, but we weren't getting it. So I contacted that attorney and said, look, here's my contract. I have this contract recorded on this date. Here is my title company. Here is my lender. Here is my copy of insurance. We are buying this house. Please contact all these third-party companies, find out who I am. They'll tell you I always close on properties. I never try to do anything tricky right before closing. What do I need to do to stop this? And then he basically told me, we're not going to stop this unless you pay off all this money. And so what did I do? I simply reminded this individual, this attorney, that, hey, look, I'm not new to this game. I can stop this in multiple ways, including this way right here. And I said, there's zero chance I let this family get foreclosed on. I can do this multiple ways. We can stop this in multiple ways, but it's not going to happen. What do we need to do to prolong this? Because it's not an issue, can we close or not? It's an issue on whether your side can provide clear title. And right now it looks like your client may not even have been able to actually sell this house, right? What do you think he did? He probably took a crap in his pants, right? Because he wanted to make sure this is actually possible. So they went back and they looked, and they did find a power of attorney that says he could sell the house for him. But by this point, the title company is saying, we don't know if we can insure it in time of the sale. So I negotiated a reduction in the amount that we had to reinstate the property. So instead of having to bring over $10,000 to the table, we only had to bring a few $1,000s to the table to stop this. And now you got to understand, you need to have this in writing. You need to go down to that attorney's office, reinstate this, give them a check. Make sure you have it in writing, copy the title company, copy everybody you can. The more third-party companies in the mix, the better. This is just basically protecting your position, and that's what we did. We went down, we stopped this, we amended the contract a month or so down the road, and that's how we're gonna stop it, right? So you don't obviously have to go through this process, but you need to let that attorney know that you're not gonna let it happen, and most of the time they're gonna work an agreement out with you, and it's gonna save everybody time, headache, and money. Now, if they say, no, you have to bring all this money to the table, and that person doesn't have the money to stop it, which they don't because they're in foreclosure in the first place because they have no money, you're gonna have them file Chapter 13. And then you're gonna have to go in front of the judge. But this is gonna help a lot because you created that paper trail, right? Saying, we're trying to get this closed. My buyer's trying to close it. We've got insurance. We've got a title company that says he closes all the time. What do we do, right? So you're creating a paper trail in case you have to go in front of the judge later and say, look, we tried everything we could. They delayed getting a payoff. They delayed this, they delayed that. It didn't seem like they were too anxious to help get this process going, and I don't blame them. They're gonna pick up 100 grand or almost 100 grand, right? So you're trying to paint a scenario later that the judge allows you to pull it out of the bankruptcy if that helps. So guys, inform your clients. They don't have to follow through with the bankruptcy. You can stop the foreclosure in its tracks, buy the extra month or extra time you need to get the house closed, pull the house out of the bankruptcy, get the house closed, then they can cancel the bankruptcy. They protect their equity. They don't get a foreclosure on your record. You get that deal. The underlying lien holder gets their lien paid off. Everybody goes on. The attorney still gets his money, right? So everybody wins in this situation. So don't panic. Make sure you understand how to do this, guys, and maybe we'll film other videos on other ways to stop a foreclosure because there are multiple other ways, but this is what we just did. We had to stop everything, refocus, readdress the situation, understand what to do, and now we're gonna go through and get this house closed this coming month. So if you like today's video, guys, on how to stop a foreclosure, leave a like, share the video, comment below. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day.